Yeah.
Recording it. Okay.
Do you want me to hit continue?
Yes. Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is John Pepe. I'm from Holy Family and also a member of the CMS support team. So I want to welcome you to Client Merge training. This is the second training in a series that we'll be doing throughout the year. Hopefully, we're going to try to keep to a training session once a month. Next one coming up is the annual report, and that is September 1st. So save the date for that. That'd be very exciting. But before we actually do the training, let me just give you a little helpful hint to all the caseworkers out there. Close your cases and enter in your volunteer hours and your volunteer tasks now before September 30th. Because if you don't, your annual report will be understated. It relies on cases being closed, not cases that are work in process. But of course, don't just close a case for the sake of closing a case. If you can close it, but close it before September 30th, because that is the end of the fiscal year. So the way we're going to do this training for Client Merge is I'm going to run through some slides to set the context and give you a lot of background before we actually dive into a demo. Because I was thinking about this, the demo alone would not really articulate the message. And you really need to hear some words first, and then the demo will make a whole lot of sense. So let me get to it. And this is what I have listed as the objectives of this training. Hopefully, you will all learn the client merge process flow. You'll learn the roles required to submit and execute a client merge request, how, when, and where to submit a request, how to execute a client merge request, and more importantly, at the end of the merge, we're to review the resulting merge client information. So those are the objectives that I laid out. Hopefully, we will meet those by the end of the session. So let me give you some background. Client Merge was released October 27th, 2019, so it's almost 2 years old. Some of you might not even know that it existed, and that's the purpose of doing this training, is to create awareness. Some of you have been using Client Merge, but have some questions. But this is almost 2 years old. By far, I can tell you, I've been doing CMS for 8 years, and this has been the #1 enhancement request since 2015. It was after we did the conversion from e-records and we had all these duplicates, and I'll explain to you how they got created in a little while, but this is the one I've heard over and over and over again. So when we submitted this enhancement request to Aguilar, our vendor, my #1 requirement was, I know this is difficult. I know it's hard, but it's got to be easy to use from a user perspective. We need something like a wizard interface where the system walks you through step by step by step, and you're not guessing what to do next. And I think they accomplished that, and hopefully you will see it. But that was my #1 requirement, because this is a very complicated thing to do, is to merge records together and get the right information on the right record. This was so difficult, it took Aguilar 1.5 years, elapsed time, to actually develop this. It was so big, so difficult, that their code name for it was Gorilla, and that is no lie. This thing was extremely difficult and took a long time. So I just wanted to give you that kind of background of where we came from. So, duplicates history. How are duplicates created? I think that's the question that we all have to be aware of, because we don't want to create duplicates. First and foremost, duplicates got created when we did the initial import from e-records in 2013. So let's go back in time for all those of you that are old enough to remember e-records, each conference basically had their own client master. So that means that if client A came to my conference, Holy Family, I would enter them in as a new client. If they went to conference B, they would enter them in as a new client, and so on and so on and so on. So when we did the import, we might have 8 client records out there from 8 different conferences. So they all came over as 8 client records. Hence, one reason why we have duplicates. The other one is using search clients for vetting versus using the intake client inquiry for vetting. This is very, very sensitive to me because I've mentioned this many times in many of my sessions. You should not be using search clients to vet a client. And let me tell you why. The search engine in search clients is very different than the search engine that we have in case intake. And this is what could happen. In search client, they are looking for an exact match. Everything needs to be the same of what you entered and what's in the database before it comes up with locating the client. For example, let's say that you enter in the client, and we're in search clients, and you enter in an address, and it's one nowhere drive, and you enter DR period. And what's out on the database is DRIVE, and that's the way it was entered. Guess what? You're going to get a false negative. It is not going to find the client because it is not an exact match. Basically, search clients works where it's basically an and condition. A and B and C and D must all be true in order to locate the client. Now let's go over to case intake where we have the client inquiry. That search engine uses the combination and permutation of all the data that you entered in order to locate a client. It is much more powerful. So if you were over in case search clients and you got a false negative and you didn't locate the client, guess what you did? You said new client, and therefore that's how we got a duplicate because the client was already out there, but you didn't find it through search clients. And that's how duplicates get created that way. The other way, and this is going on today as well, is an existing client is out there, but it's overlooked during the client inquiry process. Client inquiry process, like I said, is great. It will find the client if the client's out there, but you got to look. And if it comes back with 2 records, or it comes back with 1, you overlook it and you create a new client, you just created a duplicate. That happens today. The other way duplicates get created is that the household members are being set up as a new client. And I can tell you that because I have one in my conference right now. We had a household member of a client who moved out because the client, her roommate, had COVID. So she moved out. But that was only a temporary move. She was going to be moving back in. What the caseworker did was set her up as a new client rather than keeping her as a household member. So we lost that holistic view of what we've given in terms of assistance to that entire household. And we got to merge them back together again because that household member lives there now and she's not living on her own. So we've seen this before where household members are being set up as new clients, and that's something we should not be doing. So just some fun facts here. We currently have 250,000 client records. I don't know enough to say that's big or small. It seems very large to me, but it's because we got some duplicates. And we're adding about 1,500 new clients each month.
And that's for the month of Georgia?
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, is that just for the State of Georgia?
That's only for Georgia, yes. And,
Click on it.
do you want me to click?
Now click. Oh. Go back.
It did not advance when I hit the arrow. What do you want me to do? Okay, that's the process flow. It's not things you should know. The title's wrong. So, here's the process, and we're gonna walk through this as we do the demo. But I thought you should be aware of the way the process kind of works. The very first thing is somebody, a requestor, requests a merge. And that person is usually the intake person or it's a caseworker person. So either one of those can request a merge. It then goes over, and when that request is issued, an email is sent to the records manager. Now, as you know, you can have many people be records manager. And so it's not isolated to one person. Just like you can have many caseworkers, you can have many intake people, you can have many records managers. In some conferences, you might have multiple treasurers as well. Same concept. So when the request goes out, whoever requested it, the record managers, whoever is listed with that role, will receive an email and they'll receive a message in their message box. And they'll receive an email and then they will accept the request. The request goes into a generalized folder. I'll show you that in a little bit, where all the request goes. But once that record manager accepts the request, they now have isolated that request to them. So nobody else can work on it. They have accepted it. And then the record manager actually executes the merge, and the record manager and requester review the merged client record. So it's a pretty simple process. And again, you probably see this as we go through the demo. Okay, merging made simple. When to merge clients. You would think that the obvious one is where the name is the same, the address is the same, the phone number is the same. Yes, of course. When you see multiple records, and I say multiple, trust me, it was not a hard task for me to go through our system to find duplicates. It was very, very easy. We have some client records out there where we have 8 for one client. Now, maybe that was some that came over from e-records, not sure. But don't always just look for, the identical match. Of course, that's one way to identify that. Household member that has a separate client record, that's another opportunity to merge. And that's the one that I mentioned to you about, the client that we have where a household member was set up as a client when there's still an existing household member. That's a good opportunity for you to merge. And of course, when clients that came together as one household, that happens quite a bit. You know that a client today becomes a household member tomorrow. That's a good time to merge the two together, because what you're after is bullet number 1 for the merge benefits. The real benefit of the merge is that you now have a holistic view of all the past assistance for that household. We, St. Vincent de Paul, Georgia, have a guideline that we help a household, not necessarily an individual, once every 12 months. Well, if you got multiple client records, it's going to be hard to piece it together. But if you have one, when that household member comes in or that client comes in, you now see all the past assistance for that household. The other one is to prevent household members receiving non-qualifying assistance. The example I used before, if the household member is set up as a client, and they come in and you give them assistance, you have no earthly idea that you just helped the other client that they live in the household with 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago. So this will help preventing you to give a household member assistance that they really don't qualify because you helped that household recently. And last but not least is it will reduce the number of client records out on the system, which overall will improve system performance. Because keep in mind, every time you issue a search, or anytime you do anything in CMS, that thing's going to be chugging away. Now, it doesn't go through it sequentially, but less events here, less client records will enhance performance. So that's another benefit.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
One of the, I guess, situations that I see most often is that I see the same client, but there has been a recent move. And I'm trying to merge because to your point, I want to make sure that we're able to keep their old address and our new address together so that we can see their history.
Right.
And that's where I have the most difficulty.
Well, when you merge it, you're going to get whatever you say is the primary is going to be the new address.
And that's where I always have a problem, so.
But you'll see the old address in the in past assistance.
You'll see. Not that, past assistance is just the assistance.
Right. Past assistance, you can then point back to the case.
Oh, if you click on past assistance and you go back, then you see the case and you'll be able to do that. But when they come together, it's going to be the primary's address.
Thank
The
you.
most current.
Okay, things you should know. And again, I thought I'd mention these up front before we get into the demo. Request to merge is initiated in 2 areas of the system, case intake and search clients, and you'll see that. Any 2 clients can be merged, not just a duplicate client names. What I mean by that is not 2 John Smiths, but you could have a John Smith and a Jane Doe and merge them together. So don't get hung up on the word duplicate, meaning that they got to be exactly the same. That's not true. You can merge any 2 clients together. And by the way, any conference can merge any clients. Remember, no conference owns a client. So any conference, although I might provide assistance from Holy Family to this client, another conference might be merging my record, my client record with their client record. They can do that and they should do that because we want clients to come together. We don't want duplicates. Only 2 clients can be merged with a single merge request. So if you got 3 client records out there, you're going to have to do 2 merges. You cannot do 1 merge and merge all 3 together. It's 2 at a time. Either client record can be considered to be the duplicate. And this is the way I think of it. This isn't necessarily the way you should think of it, but I'll tell you the way I think of a duplicate. If I have a client that just received assistance, we'll say yesterday, and I have the same client that received assistance 5 years ago, the one that is the latest, the one that I just helped yesterday, to me is the duplicate. Because that other one existed and I didn't see it. So I created the duplicate. So that's the way I look at duplicates. I look at to see when is the last time that we helped this person, and that becomes to me the duplicate. Client records are locked during the merge and the caseworker is notified. There's a point in time, and the point in time is when the caseworker, the records manager accepts the merge. When he or she does that, it locks it down. It locks down the match and it locks down the primary. I'm going to use those terms because you'll see them in a little while. Because we don't want you might be working in that case to do anything until the merge is complete, but you will get a notice. You will be notified, you'll see a message that these records have been locked. You're just gonna need to wait for the merge to complete. And by the way, it's less than 5 minutes. I darn guarantee you, as I demo this thing today, it will take much longer. I don't know why, but that's the way it will probably go. If one client is red flag, the merged client will be red flag. So if you have the primary client and you have the match client, and one of those are red flag, when they come together, that one client record will be red flag. Once the merge is complete, this is something you should know, so don't look for it. I wish we could change this because I wish that we did send out notifications, but we don't. So I want you to know that up front, that when the merge is complete, you as the requester or the record managers, don't look for an email. You're not going to get one. The record manager needs to constantly check to see if the merge has completed, but you're not going to get notified. Unfortunately, it's the way it is. And by the way, once the merge is done, it cannot be undone. You cannot say, oh, I really didn't mean to do that. It's too late. The merge has taken place. Okay? So we're going to do a demo now. Hopefully that sets the stage for what you're going to see. Okay, so I'm going to start off in, well, I wish I could start off. Search. I'm going to go to search. I'm going to go to clients. And I'm going to put in a client that I know is duplicates. I've been messing around with this client this week. And it's in my conference, so I'm not going to hurt anybody's feelings. We have them too. Latifah Hughes, her birthday is 08/17/1985. You might be asking me, why am I using search when I just gave you that big speech? It won't find it. Well, it will find it if I give it the exact parameters that are out on the database. My only point is if you put something in that's not exact, it won't find it. But it should find Latifah, hopefully. Yeah, and there's 2 records for Latifah. So we got a duplicate here, right? Okay, so let's see if I can move the screen up.
Can I ask a question? How do you know which one of those is the newer record?
Well, good question. What I do is I'm going to click on the first one. And I'm going to go to past assistance, okay? But I'm going to show you in the merge how you do know with a date. But right now, because I just found the duplicate, first place I'm going to go is past assistance. I'm going to see, oh, last time we helped this person for this record was 6/13/2019. Okay? Then I would go back to the second record, and I would do the same. And we help then 2017. So it tells me 2019 is the most current, is the latest. So that's the one I'm going to report the duplicate on. And
So
all,
will it always be the top one so that you don't have to go through both of them?
it usually is.
Okay.
It usually is, but I did find a couple cases as I was going through where it wasn't. But usually it is. So if I clicked on it, all I have to do is click on that button, request merge, and it will send that request to an area of the system that the record manager has access to. That's it. I'm going to go through case intake. I just wanted to show you that through search clients. That's one path, if you will. But if we went back to case intake, and this is probably more where you're going to, more of the area where you're going to uncover duplicates, not necessarily through search clients. If you think about it, that's more of a proactive kind of thing. You're looking for duplicates. This is a day-to-day thing, case intake, that as you're thinking, entering in a new client, you find out that the client already exists. So this is something that you'll trip over more duplicates through case intake than you will going through search clients. So let's do the exact same thing. Let's pretend like we're gonna be helping Latifa again. H, Hughes. And the only information we have on her at this time is the birth date again. Okay? So this is your typical starting a case intake, starts with the client inquiry process where, like I said, goes out there and looks at multiple combinations, permutations. Forget about this. I've been messing around and leave some garbage behind. This is the test database, so ignore the man behind the curtain here with these two. These are the two we're focused on. So if I was to enter in Latifa Hughes, thinking that there'd be only one record out there, she's an existing client, well, I've just discovered there's two. So what do? Well, the same thing that I probably would have done if I was in search, and I don't know if I can move this thing up some. And I would probably click on the first one. Then I would go to past assistance. And again, I would see the same kind of information. This is 2019. And this one we already know is 2017. So I'm going to always use the most current, the latest for this case. I want this case to be appended to this client, not this client. So I'm going to continue with my case intake process. And brings me to the match screening. And right here is where you have request merge. And by the way, this is the only spot where you're going to be able to request a merge in case intake. So we're going to do it because we're going to go over and actually do the merge. So this is what it comes up with. This merge is being submitted by, capture my name and the date, the client information, and it's asking for some information here for you to submit to the records manager. If I just hit submit, it won't let me do it. It says back, oh, it did let me do it. It shouldn't let me do it until I completed some information here. Anyway, what you want to do is say, listen, I just came across clients exactly the same. They got the same first name, they got the same last name, their address is the same, everything is the same. Please.
Hey, John, this is Bob. What if it is this, what if it is not the same?
That's fine, but they're duplicates.
Yeah,
You want to merge them together? As I said
Yeah.
before. you can merge-
first name and last name are the same, but the address has changed.
No problem. No problem. Click on the one that you're going to open the case for. And then you don't list the same address, it's not the same, say merge both records, the address is different for one of them, whatever.
Right. Okay.
You might not understand your question. I don't care if their address is the same or not. I have determined that we got a duplicate out there. Does that answer?
Yeah, that, so far so good. I just want to see what happens next.
Well, yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The address can be different, the names can be different. That's fine. If you determine these are the same people, I'm telling you, these are the same people, and I want to merge them into one record, you can do that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about what this, I'm just concerned about what the content of the one record looks like.
Well, you'll see it in a minute, Bob. Hold on, we're not there yet. We're only submitting the request. We haven't executed the merge yet. But you will see it. Okay, so this is basically gonna go to the records manager. It's a list of instructions. If you know something else that's unique about this client, for them to know, to do the merge, you need to tell them. So you're given an area where you can write in some notes to them. Okay, this is gonna, you'll see this later on when we do the merge. But we're gonna submit it. And now it says, report this client as a duplicate, sure. Go on. So, merge request submitted. All the information as before. You see that's all been grayed out and everything. Just click OK. Now, I'm going to cancel this case intake and we're going to jump over to the merge. Now, I was the intake person here. I am now going to become the records manager. I'm done. I would just continue with this case just as I would any other case. And basically, I just submitted a request out there for these clients to be merged. And somebody that has a records manager's role is going to actually execute the merge. So I'm just going to cancel this case and leave nothing behind. So I'm done being the case intake person. You saw me over with search clients, where basically, if I wanted to as a caseworker, I might have tripped over duplicates there. Now I'm the records manager. So down in your list here of options, you see an option called client merge. Only record managers that have that role will see this option. So if you are not a records manager, you will not see this. As you know, that's pretty much the way all of CMS works. If you're a treasurer, all you're going to see is treasury functions. You're not going to be able to do casework and vice versa. Same concept. So I clicked on client merge and I got 3 in the queue. Here's the request. I got 3 of them. Now, those 3 are open to anybody within your conference that has a records manager's role to pick up and to put into, you'll see a bit, the consolidations folder. So there's 2 tabs, one the request, the other one's the consolidations. It hasn't moved there yet because I, as the record manager, have not picked it up and accepted it. When I do that, it will then move in here and it will lock it so that I'm the only one working on it. Because I could have 2 or 3 record managers in my conference, and I don't want them to be working on the same record I'm working on. But this list at this point is open to anybody who has a records manager's role to pick one up and start working. Okay? So we're going to work Latifa. We're going to leave Michelle and Amber alone right now. Okay, so I click on it. Merge request. This is what came over that the requester sent me, and that requester could have been a case intake person, could have been a case worker. All the information, you saw me enter in that data. Okay, and I'm going to accept. Okay, good. I'm going to accept it as the record manager. Assign this duplication consolidation task to yourself. Say yes. Now, if I go back, I'll show you, I'll talk through every one of these, but let me go back. Latifa is gone from this list, but Latifa is in this list. That's me. I'm working Latifa. You can work any one of these, but I'm working Latifa. It's in the consolidations list at this point. Now, a couple things I can do. I can send it back to the work list. Now Latifa is open to other folks to actually do the consolidation, other record managers. That's one thing I can do. The other thing I can do is dismiss it, which means basically delete it, forget it. We're not doing a merge, period. I made a mistake, somebody submitted to me by mistake, after I looked at it as recommended, we should not be merging these claims. So I've made that determination, so I'm just gonna delete the request entirely, which I won't do because I wanna go forward. But that's what happens when you press the dismiss button. The other one is moving forward, yeah, this is a duplicate, I gotta go identify a match for this version. So, come in here, you say identify match for Latifa Hughes. You search, there's the other one. We picked up one, we reported that as a duplicate, which is, in a little while, you'll learn the term primary versus match, which is the primary. This is the match one. So as I look at it, I go, yep, that's her. That's the other one. So the system now is giving me a side-by-side of both the primary, which is the duplicate that was reported. Think of duplicate and primary being one of the same, and the match that I just clicked on. So here's review candidate match. This is the match, this column. This is the primary, this column. Now, if I go across the tabs here, you'll see that's all the information. Some of it differs, right? Especially when we get the church affiliation, that looks different. Phone number looks about the same. Room number looks different here. Looks like she was in Motel 6, room 329. Now she's in 115. Important information, especially when you're cutting a check. But let's go across the tabs. So that's the client profile. Then you got the household. And so in the primary, just see something. Okay, I did point out one thing. This was, I think this was your question. So how do you know which one is the most recent? CMS tells you. The match, the last time somebody touched this record, doesn't necessarily mean that they received assistance. Somebody could have gone in and changed the address, changed the phone number. Any update that occurred to that record, CMS remembers. So what CMS is telling you, the last update to this record, the match record, was 805-17. The last time somebody touched this record, which was me, 8/09/2021. I did that a couple of days ago. So it's telling me that this one is the most recent, which is your primary. This is your match, 17. And why is that important? Because more than likely, as I go through this wizard, and remember I said to you what I wanted to do, and the direction I gave to the development team was make it simple. Have a wizard where you walk the user through each step. That's what you're going to see right now. The system is going to walk the record managers through step by step by step to do the merge. But just kind of like looking around, I see that in the primary, which was the duplicate that I reported, I have some household members. In the match, I don't. Income, I have nothing. Expenses, nothing in either. Assistance. Okay. So what the system is saying is that this is all the assistance, and the one that's highlighted is the one from the match. So it's showing you all together. So when this record merges, all of this is going to come together. But it's just letting you know that anything that's highlighted is from the match record, not from the primary. In program history, if they were part of a Christmas program, Thanksgiving program, it would show you side-by-side comparison for that as well. Okay, so now we're going to go back here and say, yeah, this is fine. I agree. We should be merging these two records. I'm going to select it. And now CMS is going to walk me through the wizard, step by step to pick the data that I want in the resulting merged record. And I can pick data from either the primary or the match if I think it's relevant. So by default, on the profile, if you will, it'll assume everything's coming from the primary unless you say something different. So I might want to say, maybe I want to use room 329, just making it up. So when the merge comes together, it'll be 2360 Delk Road, but it'll be Motel 6, room 329. Because I want to use that data from the match. I don't want to use it from the primary. Again, I'm just kind of like making this stuff up. But you can pick and choose which one, okay? Now, just like all the widgets we have in the system, you would click next, and it'll bring you to the next tab, the household tab. Now, you have to actually do something. If you leave this blank and you don't check off what you want for household members, the resulting merge will be blank. You will not have any household members. Well, I'm going to say, yeah, since this is the most recent one, the primary, and that was 2019, this was 2017, I assume that she still has those children. I'm going to list all three. I want to go to the resulting merged client. I keep advancing forward. Again, it's walking me through step by step, form by form, showing me side by side comparison. There's nothing there, so I don't have to pick and choose. Nothing there in expenses. Let's see, Dollar Tree right now for the primary, and she worked in Waffle House before. I'm going to stick with the primary. That's probably the most current. So I'm going to, the radio button, I'm going to leave checked because I want that to come over. Other aid. Now here's where you can say, well, the food stamps, they don't have food stamps anymore. You leave it blank. They still do. You probably want to click that. They still have Medicaid. And by the way, they have SSI disability. So that's new information that I might know. And I want that to come over again from the primary. Okay, the client profile, red flag status and history just basically tells you everything that's coming over. And now I can execute the merge, okay? By the way, when I accepted this merge, that's when the system locked the record. So remember I was in case intake and the case intake person was still merrily going along, entering in case intake, assigning the case to a caseworker, that's fine. But when I accepted it, when that caseworker is working on that case or that information, they're going to receive a message saying these records are locked. Somebody's doing a merge. And you're going to need to wait for the merge to complete before you go forward. Now, chances of that happening are very slim, but I just need to tell you at what point the system locks the both primary and the match. It is when the records manager accepts this merge. That's when it locks it. And I'll say execute merge, you gotta be with me because this is the test system and I'm just hoping it works. This would create a merge client record into two, delete two, doing, say, sure, why not? Okay, so the merge is in process. So as I mentioned to you before, you will not receive a message when it's complete. Record managers, you need to come back to the screen and check once in a while. You do a refresh to see if it's checked, anything there. There's the details of what you merge. Merge is still in process.
Are the records locked while it's still in progress?
I'm sorry?
Are the records locked?
Yes, absolutely.
You have to wait for the process to.
You have to wait for the, it got locked when we did the acceptance. It's not gonna let it go until if the merge is complete, or else, it's gonna be a moving target.
Typically, how long does it take to process?
Normally, I'll tell you, this is a test system. It all depends how many records got to merge. Obviously, if you got a slew of past assistants on one, like 15 or 20, it's gonna take a little longer.
Right.
But I've experienced about 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's what I've experienced with a reasonable amount, maybe 3 or 4 past assistants on one and 3 and 4 on another. Usually about 5 minutes, but of course, it'll make me a
So
liar.
here's a question, because I have to admit, I'm just confused. So let's say, for example, I have been working in grants. I submit a person's name in the case intake. I recognize there's somebody there with a different address, makes sense to want to merge them. So I'm going to submit that. I mean, even in my own conference, I don't know if there's even someone identified as this case manager person.
No, not case manager, records manager.
Excuse me, records manager. I don't even know if there's one identified in any of the grants that we've worked. And so I then cannot continue to work in that case until someone frees it up. But like, even in a,
No,
No,
keep it
no.
up, that's not what I said. You can continue to work that case. Just go on to you, there's no change. You submitted a request, someone's gonna there is no guarantee that someone's gonna act on it immediately.
right,
You have no earthly idea when they're gonna act on it.
that's correct.
So you just need to continue doing your work through the case. And if for some reason that you're at a point where the records manager has accepted and locked the record and you need it, you'll get a message. You won't be able to go anywhere until it's done, and then you go on your merry way. But from your standpoint, life doesn't change. You just continue doing what you were doing as an intake person.
You might have a process set up that says to a person who's designated as your data quality manager, records manager, right?
I don't even know
Hey,
if
once a
that's
week
one.
or once a month, go in and check to see if people identify duplicates and do it then. It's not like a records manager jumps in immediately.
No.
It's more of should be a scheduled maintenance function at a conference level, right?
Yeah.
And I think is the records manager also the one that identifies and
Red
processes red flags too?
Yeah, we used to have a role called red flag auditor. That went away. And they created a role called record managers that can do both.
Yeah.
Red flag as well. Okay, the merge is complete, by the way.
Yeah, it shouldn't take, I've done this before.
It
doesn't take that long.
doesn't take that long at all. But my only point to the record managers is don't look for an email that someone's gonna, kind of tickle you, tell you that it's done. You have to go back and check.
Yeah.
And that, because we get asked that an awful lot. I wish that there was an email. There should be. There should be one back to the requester to let them know as well that the merge has been completed, but there's no communication.
Can we take this one step forward?
Sure.
Okay, so I submitted this name, I see the same name, different address. I request a merge,
Yes,
but I'm gonna continue to assign this case now to somebody else.
yes.
And so it's still gonna show up as the person with the old address.
It's gonna.
That's where it gets confusing.
Well, yes and no. Okay, so you signed it to a case worker, okay? And by the way, just because you put in a new address in case intake, it's not a new address out on the database. It's only a new address in the database when the caseworker clicks update. That's a little technicality, but you as the case intake person think, I just changed the address. In reality, you didn't change the address on the database. You changed the address so that the caseworker knows that there's a change. But the caseworker might have some changes after they do a home visit. They find out that the client's really divorced and not single, and they have to change the marital status. And then at some point in the cycle, they click update. So obviously, anything prior to that update and the merge took place is going to take the address that's in the database. It doesn't know about the address that you changed. But if the caseworker clicked update and they updated the address, then when the merge begins, it's gonna take the latest changes that were made. So we're talking about something that, believe me, it'll have to be a perfect storm for all of that to happen.
John, this is Bob. I think there's two areas, or two workflows, if you will, that we're discussing here, and I think they're getting confused because there's two different situations. The one situation is you have discovered duplicate records, however you've discovered them, but it's not through, you're not trying to enter a case. You just found this duplicate records. And what you're going through right now is how to take two duplicate records and merge them.
That's right.
There's another scenario where I'm putting in a case and I find a duplicate. And now what do? How do I keep from creating another duplicate record by going forward?
Right.
Well, that's, you would, if you're a case intake person, you keep from creating another duplicate, is that you would choose the most recent one and go forward with that one to open up a case.
Okay, and see, that's where things get a little confusing
But
because,
that's no different than what it should be today. Forget about the merge. If you had two records out there and you saw one that had Holy Family, past assistance, and you
Right.
saw another one that has St. Michael's past assistance.
well, that's a duplicate. Those are duplicate records that are already there. I'm talking about, I'm doing case intake and I just see one out there for Holy Family.
Yeah,
And I say, oh, okay, well, I want these two to be the same. I don't want to create a duplicate. I need to go through that process because that's the process that gets messed up.
yeah,
Right, because if you continue through and they have a different address, forgive me, but I deal with this almost on a daily basis with the grants, and it's so confusing. And I know that I have been guilty of creating many duplicate records. And the problem is, if you continue forward, then that record's not gonna match. I've gotta write a check to let's say they used to be an apartment, now they're an extended stay.
sure.
But now, my check needs to match
Yep.
the new address. So that's where this kind of all falls apart, and it's a little confusing. So
Well,
forgive me. I'm not trying to be difficult.
no. I guess when it comes together, it's gonna have the most recent address. That's all I can say. It's going to have the most recent address that was out on the database at the time of the merge.
Right, but the merge, John, the merge is merging duplicate records that are already out there. So it's not a new case record coming in and then merging with another already existing record.
Well, Bob, you're saying case, I'm talking clients.
Right, I understand that.
I'm not talking about cases. We got two clients coming together as a single client.
Right,
And the cases just follow along with that single client.
correct.
When you're in case intake, you are opening up a case. You're not creating a new client for an existing client that's already there. You are opening up a case. You're not doing a darn thing of I hope you're not creating a new client if the client's there. So we're talking about merging clients, and cases are subservient to that client, and they'll go along with that.
Right,
So
right.
I guess I struggle with, I don't see what the issue is if I'm talking about merging two clients together. And as far as your point, it will always take the most recent address that's in the database, because that's all it knows.
Correct.
That's all it knows is what's in the database. And if you updated that address and it's in the database, it's gonna take that new address.
Okay.
You can't not. Yeah,
John, this is Mickey. So if I'm hearing what you're saying, we're getting a little lost in terms of terminology. So if I heard what you're saying is that when we're doing this function and we're merging the clients, we're taking two records that exist that have cases that have occurred and we're merging those together. I think what I've been a little confused about, and maybe the other person is, during intake, we're talking about when you have the new information you're putting in, and then it comes up and shows you that it's an active client and you have a new case where you're going to be assisting differently. So I know when I do the intake and it comes up and I'm putting in the new address, I'm verifying all of that for the caseworker before they go out, and they're going to maybe discover something else that's changed and do an update. But during intake, I have a new address. I have new household members. So when it comes up, that first tab comes up and it says the current profile, or I can't remember what the tab says. And then you look at whether it matches the other tab, and then you have to select one to see if it's the same person. I know when those changes have had to occur, I've selected that person, I'm choosing to work on that one, but I've had to go back and to the profile and make those changes so that it comes out correct for the new caseworker to go forward. Does that make sense?
That's
Did I just-
exactly right. That's
Okay,
exactly what you should do. You go back to the profile, you make the changes, you click save. I always say
Okay.
click save. And
Okay, and-
therefore,
a couple other things too is that we were taught incorrectly, I'm hearing from what you're saying. When I have gone through, or other people have gone through intake, and it's going through and it says, we see a match with the name, we see a match with the address or whatever. Some folks have gone through and it's come back and it said no results. There's been no match. But then when people have looked under a search function under household member, past assistance provided, client, caseworker, the case does pop up. And so it's like, well, that's not making sense. This should have popped up somehow during that systematic thing that you do on intake. And so
Right.
we were trained that, well, you should look them up under all these things, look them up under this, and this. And I have had that personally occur when I think, well, that doesn't make sense. I have this intake function that's supposed to be screening for all those demographics and helping me to find a match, yet it has not come up in that way, and I have found it the other way. Can you explain maybe why that might have happened?
no, I can't, Mariel, only because I can tell you my experience.
Okay,
My
okay,
experience is that case intake, the client inquiry function, by putting in the name,
uh-huh,
the birthday, the telephone number, social security if you have it, not always it's given to you,
right.
that 99.9% of the time, it will find that client if it's out there.
So
Because
as the
it-
president, then I want to make sure when I'm training new volunteer resource people coming in, I want to
Right.
make sure we train them the right way. So I
Right.
want to encourage them to just stick to the intake function, correct?
That's right.
Okay, so now you said as a maintenance, now again, I'm the records manager. So I want to go in now and I want to make this a monthly function. Is it gonna, there's no intuitiveness of the system that's going to say these people are showing up as a potential match with a prior record, right? I have to physically go in and do something. What am I
Yeah.
going to do to make this?
Unfortunately, yeah, there isn't a function that identifies duplicates. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, so if I want to go in and say once a month, I'm going to go in and look for these things and clean up my records.
No.
What's the easy? I'm sorry.
What you can do, and I know we're getting a little off track, but I think this is helpful. This is what I did to find duplicates for this class. I went into search. Now, we service 30067, 30068, 30062, but we don't own any of those zip codes. We share those zip codes with other conferences.
Okay,
So I went in, I did 30067, but in the address, I know the streets, the main arteries in East Cobb we serve, and let me pick one, Delk Road. I put in a wild card. Are you familiar with wild cards, which is a percent sign?
I know of them. I'd have never used one.
Okay, well, neither here nor there, but you can narrow down your search. So then I brought up basically all of my clients in 30067 that live on Delk Road, because I own Delk Road. And I went through that list and my eye went right to birthday. And if I saw two birth dates, the same DOBs, that was a good indication. I went then over to the left and looked at the name, they were duplicates. That's the way I did it proactively. But it's sort of like a messy way of doing it, but you can do it if you got the patience.
Okay, so it's not like I can go back to my conference and select a list of names of everyone that that's currently in our conference and go that way and see if somehow I have duplicates, right?
What you can do with research, a list of names, is that what you mean?
Yeah, there's no way I can get a list of my current clients in the system, is
Well,
there?
you can run the report, the client's report, and put in, do you own a zip code?
Well, we service all of Forsyth County, so it's every zip code of Forsyth.
Okay, well, yeah, you could go into, in this, I'll take this offline. You could run a report, a client report by zip code, and then you can see them. And,
Thank you.
you want to sit down and look at a listing, you can. Okay, let me move on here and talk about the merge completed. It completed a while back ago. And this is what the records manager would see. Merge processing has completed, merge client record. So you can see the resulted merge client record by clicking here. So we get now to see the one record that came together. That's the profile information. That's the household information. Let me jump to where the goodies are. So now we got all the past assistants all together. We have the 2017 transaction with all the 2019. So this is what the merged client would look like. Bob, I'm going to stop you because you said you wanted to see what one looked like. By the way, we got a tab here called Merged History. So with this client, when you go into search clients, you'll see a new tab called Merge History. These are the clients that we merged together. On the date, who did it. So you have a record that this client was merged with the other client. Okay? Now, another way you can see the merged client, you're all familiar with history, I hope. If you go to history, bring that back. An update, first of all. And are you still here? She's
Yeah, John,
not.
I'm here. It just might be because you're on the classroom TV.
I'm sorry?
It's probably just because you're on the classroom computer there.
So it's not showing me the full form.
Yeah.
You see that? It's not showing me the full form. Should I maybe do this? Ah, there you go. I got it. Okay, so here's the client history report. You can see that we had all of the household members because we checked them off. We said we wanted to see them all. Dollar Tree, that should look familiar to you. That's one that we checked off. We didn't have anything for income and expenses. Here's the past assistance. The 2017 transaction merged with the 2019. And if this was a red flag, of course, you would have that. You have another section called merge history. So it would tell you that these clients were merged. And then, of course, you have your individual cases, right?
John, I'm going to stop you there for a question about red flag.
Yeah.
If a client was red flagged, does it show up in the merge selection options, or can the red flag be deleted in a merged record?
I just heard does it show up in the merge? Say it again, I missed something.
In the merge selection options?
Oh, yes, you'll see the message like you normally see, that it's the client has been red flagged.
And can you red flag, or can you delete a red flag in a merged record?
No, you cannot. The only person that can remove a red flag is the records manager with the other function. Or you can go in through search clients and change the status. But I think you need to be a case manager or above to do that. You can remove the red flag if you want, but you gotta go in through search clients and then edit and then change, I think, change status. And you can remove the red flag if you want, but only a certain level can do that. Not everybody can do it for the obvious reasons. And certainly the record managers having that role can remove red flags as well. But anybody can set a red flag. Intake person can set a red flag, a caseworker can set a red flag, but only a record manager, or I think it's a case manager or above, can actually remove one.
Yeah, John, this is Virginia. I asked that question. I was just wondering if there was a red flag on a previous history, if that carried over to the merged file, or is it just show up like it did on this one where it would say past history of red flag?
Oh, no, Virginia, at the beginning, I said that if one of the clients that you're merging, either the primary or the match was red flag, the resulting merged client will be red flag.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
So if the timeline on it was that at this point, the red flag status could be changed, you'd have to go through a red flag status change
Exactly.
process. Okay,
Exactly.
gotcha. Thank
So,
you.
yeah, so if you said really, okay, the two came together, the resulting merged record is red flag, but I really don't want it to be red flag, you then got to go through the normal change process to remove the red flag for this client, like you would any other client. This isn't a special client. We just brought two together and created one. Okay? So that is another way of checking out the merged client, is by looking at the history report. So CMS gives you the ability as record manager to view it, and certainly, let's see, do I want to go back? Yeah, okay. So let me stop there before I let me open it up for other questions. Bob, your question at the beginning, what does it look like? I showed it to you. What do you think?
Yeah, that was, I understand where you're going with it now. Yep.
You got any questions?
Nope, that's it. That was, my only concern was that when I was doing a case intake, not record merging, but a case intake, and I found the duplicate, the difficulty was in changing the data. So it wouldn't let me change it. I'd have to bring it over as the old data, then come back in and change all the data again.
Well, that's not exactly what I thought it said. You changed the data in intake.
Well, no, I don't get through intake. I'm in the part of the intake where it's still doing the search for duplicates. And I find a duplicate. And then when I find the duplicate, it says, okay, what do you want to do with the duplicate? You want to use this record or do you want to use the old record is what it's asking. And so if I say, yes, I want to use the old record, then it brings forward the old record, but I have to go back and change all the data that's different. So address might be different. They may have a new dependent, phone number might be different, whatever.
Okay, I guess I still ask the question, if I'm doing case intake, I'm gonna use the most recent record. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm not even gonna think about using an old record. I'm gonna be using the most recent client record, because I looked at past assistance.
Right.
I thought one had a 2019 past assistance, one had 2017. I'm gonna click on the 2019 one and go forward with it.
Right, and that's doing a merge of two different records, and that I understand.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it's about. It's about merging anything. you can merge two different records, you can merge two of the records the same.
Right,
It really doesn't know and doesn't care.
right.
It's relying on whoever the requester is to say, these two things need to be merged,
Right,
whoever the requester is. And then it relies on the record manager as another level of authority, because the requester submitted the merge, it may not be what you want to do. And therefore, the record manager has veto power.
right.
You say, we're not merging these two, dismiss it, boom, gone. The request is gone.
Hey, John, I'm not sure, but I think I'm understanding Bob's question. I think it's what we talked about earlier. And the point that you had made to me was, and you made also in the conference, is that when you're doing that intake record, it is not a new record until the caseworker actually accepts it and updates the record after they've met with the client, right?
That's-
Because
I'd
you're
say
not
that-
doing a merge on intake, right? On intake, you're taking the most recent record that matched what you put in and assigning that as a case with the new information that you've collected. But that record isn't in CMS being merged as yet. It's just going to be updated when the caseworker confirms all of the new information.
Exactly what I've been saying, I think. for-
Right, but I didn't get it the first time either.
That might be new information to some people, thinking, I was in case intake and I changed the address, therefore it's changed. Not so. It's not changed until the caseworker updates the client record. Until then, it's sort of just held in limbo, if you will. But from a case intake standpoint, you think you changed it. It's not changed. On the
So
database.
John, I think that's what Bob and I were saying. When you select that, it's not made the change, but if you tab back to profile and you go in and you make the changes and you hit save, it does save that.
No, but it's not changed to the database. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Yes.
No, I understand that, but it still lets you in intake give the most updated information. So when it goes to the person that's going to be the caseworker and they print out the client history, they're getting the most updated information for them to call the client and then do the rest of it when they're doing their home visit.
Absolutely, but my only point is if the merge took place at that point, if it did, it would merge the old information.
Yeah, I'm
Because-
not talking about a merge. I'm just talking about.
I
intake.
know, but
Okay.
that's the way CMS been working for years, is that you go back to the profile, you make your changes, you hit save, and from that point, looks like the changes are made, and you can produce a case record form with that new information, sure. But that had been there forever, that's not new.
Well, but you're assuming everybody has the same amount of knowledge that you do, because it's all new.
Well-
That intake process might be a good advanced topic that we.
Yeah, maybe we should, just by this discussion, maybe
Yeah.
we should have another class on intake, because, yeah, I shared that information with Virginia because she called me about something else. But
And you know, this is Mickey again too, and you know, I'm newer to this, and so we didn't really have good orientation and training to the system. It was kind of everybody how they had done workarounds
Sure.
because they were frustrated with the system. So I would love it if you would, you know, have one on doing a really effective intake and doing it correctly. That would save I know some of us that are still a little
Well, that's
confused
not-
probably.
good input, that's what this is for. We have laid out, a series of these types of training webinars, and they're pretty much topical. Like this is a topic, it's not necessarily how you do case intake, how you do case worker from beginning to end. Because we have done that in the past, but you're right, we've had a lot of turnover. People now had to learn from somebody else, they learned some good and they learned some bad. And maybe it's time that we had a little refresher on case intake. I think that's my takeaway and Amanda's takeaway from this, that maybe we will schedule one of these just on case intake. But, you know, I guess merge is different than case intake. That's all.
It's different than,
They're two different animals. But, you know, well, the objective here is for everybody to get focused on preventing. We can't do anything about the past. The past is the past. We brought over a lot of duplicates from e-records. Some of them are getting cleaned up over time. Some of them are not. But we can do things to stop the bleeding. The two things you can do to stop the bleeding is if you are a conference that's using search clients to vet clients, stop doing that. I don't know how else to say it. I've said it for 8 years. Vet clients through case intake, not through search clients. So that's one thing that you can do. The second thing you can do is pay more attention to what the system tells you when you are trying to locate a client. Because the system might be telling you there are 2 records out there, or 3, or 4. That is the flag that should go off to say, we need to merge these. But more importantly, I'm not going to create another new client because there's one out there. Even if the system comes back with 1 and you ignore it and you move forward and you say new client, you just created a second client record. So those are 2 things I could think of we can stop doing immediately that will stop the bleeding. The rest over time, they'll probably get fixed as we come across them, because I don't think anybody's going to dedicate any resources to go purposely in there to find duplicates. I wish they would. But if you can, great, by putting in, like I said, put in the zip code and probably narrow down your search so you can see your clients that you've serviced and kind of run through that list and look at the date of birth. And if you see the date of birth being repeated a couple of times, you know you got duplicates. And then you can go issue a merge request. So that's what I would say about that. And this is my final message to you. I'm commissioning everybody. This is the Great Commission. To go forth, find duplicates and merge them. That's what we need to do if we really want to clean this thing up, because it will benefit everybody. Where's the benefit? The benefit is that when that client comes to your conference, because clients move around, you don't necessarily own that client forever. They will move around. They will go to other conferences. When they come to your conference, you'll see everything together of where they were helped, whether it be Holy Family, whether it be St. Michael's, whether it be St. Anne's, whether it be St. Catherine's, Christ the King, doesn't really matter. You'll see everything together. You will have a holistic picture. It'll make life a whole lot easier for you than looking at 3 or 4 client records and trying to piece it all together. So that's why merging them is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. You can't hurt anything by merging them. There's no hurt that can be done. But like I said, we can't do anything about the past, but we can do something about the future. I will leave you with this one thing, and I'm going to probably confuse you when I tell you this. So I debated whether I was going to tell you this or not, but I'm going to tell it to you anyway. You don't know this, but once a year, the beginning of a new fiscal year, we logically purge clients that haven't had any activity in the last 5 years. So for example, October 1st, 2021, we purged logically, not physically. We purged clients that have not had any assistance since 2016. And what's the benefit of that? The benefit is that when you go through case intake, you're not dealing with those clients. The system doesn't have to run through all those clients. John Barry and I talked about that about 3 years ago, and we made a decision that we were going to do that. So, you know, we're taking action proactively or trying to do it through programming of eliminating a lot of junk that came over from e-records, that these are clients that we haven't seen in 10 years. And we're still carrying them on the database. So what if they come in again? Send them up as a new client. It's better than having them out there for 10 years inactive. So that's just a little fun fact for you to know that we do that once a year and we look back 5 years. Now, any comments on that?
I think we answered all of the questions through some of the verbal ones,
I'm sorry.
but I think you answered all the questions and everything.
Okay.
Oh, wait, one more thing. When you enter a client, I'm confused on when to merge or just entering them into the system if they're already there. Go back to
You
that.
need to speak up a little louder. I didn't hear you.
Oh, it's me, John.
Oh, man. Go ahead.
Well, you can read it here.
Oh, what you asking me?
I was reading this.
Oh, you were reading somebody's.
I do, if we understand we're over time, so if anybody has to hop off, you will not hurt our feelings. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so what is it? When entering a client, I'm confused on whether to merge or just entering them into the system if they're already there. I usually have a client show up when I'm entering and I accept that client and finish the information. Is this adding? No. No. If you are working with a client and the client's already there and it's only one occurrence to that client, you don't request the merge because there's only one of them. And you would continue with whatever you were doing. You accept the client and then you open up a case and you sign a casework. That's what you do. The only time you would consider a merge is if you come across when you're entering in that client information and you see there are 2 records out there, or 3 or 4. That's when you would request the merge. But if you only got one and that is the client that you're working with, but they might have changed their address or might have changed their phone number, then you just move on like you normally would with any other client. No change. You just move through the process.
Scroll down. See the next question. John.
Is this a continuation? As case intake search for clients, the intake client tab. Do not use search. Then when you find multiple, then do we select the most recent case and do the profile? And then who asked this question?
Pam,
Pam, you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, ask the question. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I probably don't need to ask it when everybody's online. My conference doesn't do any of this the way you're explaining it. So I just need some further instruction, maybe offline, to update what we need to do differently. We don't have an intake person per se. It's just too much complication for me to tell you right now, but I'll try to I'll try to send you an email, John. Maybe you can,
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, Pam, this is Bob. I have the same situation you have. I just sent a note to John saying it's our process that's causing confusion, not necessarily the system.
Right, definitely. Well, and I'm a new president and I was trained, by whoever trained us, and we weren't trained this way. And so I'm just going off of what my training was and, it's not right. And so I have to figure out how we're going to try to institute, the different processes with more education on my part.
Well, I'll be happy to help any way I can.
Okay, thank you.
And let's see now, one of the smaller takeaways for me is I just must assign records manager to use this function. Okay, yeah. So if every conference should have a record manager, at least one, because you're going to need one for red flagging as well as merging. So if you don't have one, try to identify one. It can be a conference administrator. It could be a caseworker. It could be whatever you decide it to be. But you should have one within your conference. Because there's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be other functions built on the record manager function in the future. And John, is it possible to have a quarterly or something like that CMS user group meeting, discussion, et cetera, for users? Yeah, it's something Jerry and I have talked about. I don't know if it's going to be a quarterly, but we certainly want input from our users. And believe me, I support CMS, and I can tell you, we don't have any shy people. I get more input than I can possibly ever want in my life about, what we should do differently. And it's good. Keep it coming, because it's the only way we're going to make this thing better and better. It's come a long way since 2013. Those were very dark days for a lot of us. But we're now in the sunshine, and the system is pretty good, but it can be better. It can be better.
We see the rest of the comments. I did put that Aguilar, the training from the Aguilar site.
Yes.
I gave that to them. Check that out. They do have the roles broken up into short training videos. So in the meantime, until we get around to adding some more topics, please visit that site and use those and pass it on to your caseworkers. And Pam, contact John, Jerry, or myself, and we'll get some one-on-one training with you guys out there at St. Lawrence. And let's see, where else are we going? We know we need intake and.
I'm sorry, did you say the website was for that other, starts with an A? I didn't catch that.
You are, it's in the chat from me. I put the
Oh.
link there, a little bit brings up. On the last one here, Mickey, new presidents on reporting functions. We do join the September 1st webinar. It's on annual reporting.
Yeah, that one's going to be good. It's timely because the annual report, obviously, we close it down September 30th, but today's only August 11th. If one message I leave you to go back to your conferences is to close your cases and get your volunteer hours, time, and miles into the system before September 30th. Or else, and believe me, I told the manager this today, this is like the dogwoods and the azaleas that come out every spring. I can guarantee you that I will get 5 calls from conferences that say, I got 200 open cases. Can you close them for me? And the answer is no, I cannot. I don't have the resources. We don't have a program that magically goes in there and does it. That has to be done the good old fashioned way. You have to go in there and manually close them. If you don't close them, your annual report will be incorrect. That's a given. I can tell you that. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. See you September 1st.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Even something,
Thanks.